son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have all your action for the FireKeepers Casino 400 when we head to the Irish Hills of Michigan this week. Stages are going to be at lap 60, lap 120, and then we race the final 80 laps to the finish.
Interesting fact here at Michigan is in the last 10 races, the pole sitter has gone 1-1 5 times, and each manufacturer has done it. In the last 8 races, though, Chevy has won 6 of those 8, with Kyle Larson winning the last 3 consecutive races.
Weather has a 35% chance of showers or thunderstorms when we're scheduled to go racing tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern on Fox. All right, Liehr, we're in the same boat that we were in last week. Neither one of us really want to talk about the big 3, but we've had practice 2 shortened by rain and practice 3 completely washed out by rain. So we're going to make a lot of inference here during this show of who we think are going to be running good. And I think it's important to just talk about the big 3 again at the beginning of the show. Harvick starting 4th is 12,000. Rowdy starts 3rd. He's 11,600. And Truex is 10,600 and starts 17th. All are in play when you have rain shortened and the new tires that nobody's been able to test on. I'm not sure that it doesn't increase you wanting to bank on one of these 3 guys or even a couple of these 3 guys. Liehr, what are your thoughts about the big 3 this week? And then we'll talk about the free square.
Well, as far as, the big 3, I would say, my favorites out of the 3 would probably be Truex, just based off of his place differential potential and, what that team's been doing in the 2018 season, coming off the win last week at Pocono. Congratulations to them. It was an awesome race. And then, Harvick's obviously, been a main staple this season as well. And, he wanted to come off with his poor performance from the prior week and come out and have a good race last weekend. Well, he didn't get it done, but they had a good race. But Kyle Busch, as far as he is concerned here at Michigan, this is actually one of his worst tracks that he races at. As far as Busch, I know he was fast in practice. I think he was second fastest today in the second practice. I can't get on the train of the Kyle Busch this weekend. I think there's other plays in play here, especially too with where people are starting at, especially Martin Truex Jr. But Kyle Busch, he has an average start of 13.4 and an average finish of 19.5. He's only got 1 win here out of 26 races and only 4 top 5s. So I'm not really on the Kyle Busch train this weekend, but more looking at the Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think that you pointed out why you'll get low ownership this weekend on Rowdy with the car that was running the second best with the limited practice data that we have. It might not be a bad place to swerve. I don't know if I'm going to do it. A place that you're not going to swerve unless you're trying to get cute this week is, as you told us in the introduction in your fun facts, Kyle Larson, who won the last 3 races here, is 10,500 and is starting 26th. Liehr, is there any reason to fade Larson even if you're trying to be cute? I don't think I'm going to do it.
I mean, it makes it hard, man, especially too. And I know he's not starting very high, but as far as his concerns, this race, this is by far his best track, and that's an obvious no-brainer. With the way that things have been going for Chevy so far in this season, I mean, I really think that Chevy does get the win here this weekend. I just don't necessarily think it's going to be Kyle Larson, but he has been the best Chevy so far of 2018. But if you want to get yourself on an island, kids, maybe something happens. Because one thing that Poppa and I did learn, when talking to the guys there at Kansas Speedway, and we all know this too, by the way, that he runs each and every week. He likes to run his car loose. And also it's kind of, he's a dirt track guy. Same thing. So he likes to have the car loose and fast. And, this is one of the fastest tracks that we run on the circuit here. So there's always a chance that unforeseen situation happens with him and he goes down. And if a lot of people play him, boom, if you decide to fade him, your lineups are going all the way up to the top. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some design fades for sure, at least on my part, I think.
Well, fair enough. I think I'm gonna just roll with Larson, and if something happens, it happens. But I don't think I'm going to spend money to try to fade him starting 26. I mean, that car makes it to the top 15, and it's going to be close to required play. If it makes it in the top 10, top 5, it's going to be a required play. In my opinion, at least that's what the math shows out, unless something weird happens.
Right. And just do me a favor though, if it does happen, just don't cry yourself to sleep on your huge pillow.
With my huge head. All right, Liehr, we've got the free square out of the way, and we got the big 3. I think it's time to do the honors.
Michigan style, baby, and Irish Hills.
Well done. The Irish appropriation of the Firekeeper Casino's land is well noted, and with your cheesy accent. All right, Liehr.
I try to do my best, man, but it's hard to yell and do the Irish accent at the same time.
All right, man. Who's your pick to burn some rubber this week, buddy?
All right. Well, again, thanks for watching the show, guys and gals. I'm going to be kind of going out on a little bit of a limb, but, nothing crazy. But like we always do it on the show, we always kind of foreshadow our pick based on the type of hat that we're wearing. And, I'm going there this weekend. I'm going with Chase Elliott as my burning rubber pick and the guys in the number 9 garage. I know that they've been kind of struggling so far this year. In 14 races, he only has 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s. But this week we come to a track that he has had some major success at since joining the Monster Cup Series. This week he starts from the 13th position, so obviously a great position there for him to get some place differential. And he comes with a pretty low salary in his where he's been at, which is $9,000, which is the 9th highest on the board. A lot of 9s going on here. 9,000, 9th highest, and he's driving the number 9.
God. Do I need to cue it up? Are we getting there?
Almost. But so in my opinion, he has, value this week from his starting position with his cost and how many drivers are higher in salary than him on the board. In 4 starts here, he obviously doesn't have a win because he doesn't have a win in the Monster Cup Series, but he does have 3 top 5s, and in all 4 races, he does have a top 10 with a second, and then the last time they were here, he finished 8th. He led over 30 laps in the first 2 races here in 2016, but unfortunately none in 2017. But Michigan is his second highest rated track that we drive on with a 113.9 driver rating. I know he was practicing today in the mid-teens and did not complete a 10-lap average before the weather moved in and obviously practice happy hours canceled, and then practice 2 was rain shortened. I just think Chase and the number 9 guys are hungry to get to his first victory under his belt, and so is Chevy, obviously, for the 2018 season. Like I said, this is the fastest track that we run on, and he's going to be one of the drivers that you're going to need to have on your teams this weekend, in my opinion. I think he gets his first win of his career, which I think will eventually be illustrious. But he has gotten off to a slow start in year number 3. But I think this is the weekend, man. I think something crazy. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and, lead a ton of laps. But with his place differential, and I think with his finishing position, I think for some reason something happens where he ends up with the win, and they take it home this weekend.
I got to do it, dude. You went straight Rain Man on us again. And, I don't have a problem with the play. I have a problem with you saying that you think he's going to get his first win of the season. On the week where we have absolutely no practice data to warrant it, and the Chevys have been slow all year. You're talking about it being the fastest track, and somehow the Chevys are going to find crazy speed. I don't know, man. I think that's definitely a Rain Man play. I don't mind the play as a place differential play, and I think it's a play you should make. I just think you're going a little Rain Man to get out there and say that he's going to get a win this week, buddy.
I just have a feeling he's going to get the win. But I definitely think when it comes to your fantasy teams, a guy at $9,000 starting 13th, he's definitely, in my opinion, going to get a top 5 without unequivocally a doubt. He's going to get a top 5. I just think he's I don't know. There's just something that is telling me he's going to get the win this weekend. But I think he's definitely one of the guys you have to own on your fantasy teams this week. So make sure you try to get him on there for sure.
Fair enough.
It'll be hard, obviously. $9,000 salary when you're talking about guys that you're going to want to put on there that are obviously the two of the top three guys that we already talked about, plus the Kyle Larson issue this weekend. Going to be tough salary wise, but so that way you may get him at a lower ownership percentage. But I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to want to target this week.
All right, Liehr, you know what? Like, I was being a little harsh on you for the Rain Man comment.
That's nothing new, bro.
Right. But, like, you know what? I'll tell you one better. I'll put my money where my mouth is, or better yet, one of my NASCAR collectibles where my mouth is. And if you're right that Chase Elliott wins, I will give away a Chase Elliott autographed hero card to one of the people that likes and comments on our video this week. If Chase Elliott wins, this autographed hero card can become yours. How about that?
By the way, you may want to point that out where that's autographed at.
He likes the autograph in the upper right-hand corner up here. So, it is signed. I got it personally signed by him. So
I can vouch for that. I saw it.
All right, man. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the place differential play. I just, saying he's going to win, that's just a little, whoo. But, hey, dude, you know what? You definitely have your cojones, sir. All right, man.
Roll the dice, baby. Let's roll the dice.
Speaking of rolling the dice, my burning rubber pick is more of a value play, but I have multiple value plays, so I'm going to go with Suarez at 7,300 to burn some rubber for you this weekend. Now, he only has 2 races here, and both times he went backwards, but the third time is the charm for Suarez as he's starting 22nd. This car has great place differential potential, and if you can get one of his top 10s that we've gotten from him several times this season, he will probably end up on the winning lineup. But then again, if I'm being honest, he's also failed to have any success at Texas, which is considered Michigan's sister track, so maybe I am just pulling my own Rain Man here. But if Liehr can do it, so can I, dang it, and... The reason why I think this is a good play here is a lot of people are going to look at his track history here, which is non-existent, and probably not make this play whatsoever. I think it frees up a bunch of salary for you this week, and I think that's going to help you out. Liehr, your thoughts on Suarez?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's, Joe Gibbs Racing, starting from the 20th, second position. I think there's definitely value there. I don't know, as far as making him my burning rubber pick, I don't know. What's in your mind? What are you feeling he's going to end up with at the end of the day?
I think he easily gets upper 40s, lower 50s if that car gets into the teens. And if it gets into the top 10, that's where you get the real payday from that car, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there is definitely a possibility that could happen. As far as Daniel Suarez, he's definitely a guy that's kind of been up and down so far, this season. I don't know. It seems lately that he's just been having some issues, and I don't know if his mind's somewhere else or. But those guys, I think, in the number 19, they're trending towards the right direction. Obviously, they got a guy on their team in Kyle Busch has had a great season, and they can learn from him. But starting from that 22nd position, and also having the opportunity to, have a early teens finish. I don't necessarily know if he's going to have a top 10, but at a $7,300 price point, that's kind of hard to beat. With a guy starting in the 22nd position. So I definitely like to play. I'll probably have some exposure on him. Not a ton, but, I'll have a couple.
The reason why I think I'm so big on this play this week is a few weeks ago, we were talking about how Suarez and Jones were plays when they were starting 17th and in the 15th range. And without us seeing a whole lot of practice data, I want to take the cars that I think have traditionally been really good cars that have underqualified. I think that's the smarter way to approach this, and I think people, because of his track history, are just going to be avoiding him. That's why I'm kind of on the Suarez play this week and really like it. So with that said, Liehr, and I've kind of transitioned us there by saving us money already as a burning rubber pick, who's your value pick, buddy?
Yeah, brother, I'm going to talk about a guy and a team that, in my opinion, I think that they quietly, because nobody in the NASCAR community has been really talking about them at all. I listen to Sirius XM NASCAR radio quite a bit. Obviously read a lot of articles on NASCAR.com and all the other websites that and guys like Jeff Gluck and all these other guys on Twitter, Bob Pockris, but nobody's really talked about him. But I'm going to be going with David Reagan and the guys in the Front Row Motorsports team. In my opinion, they have been the story of the year so far. I know that, we always talk about the winners. We always talk about Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex, and all the guys that always win and all this kind of stuff. But, man, they have just been performing way above expectations this 2018 season. They have finished 6th at the Geico 500 at Talladega, a 13th place finish at the KC Masterpiece 400 at Kansas, and a 16th place finish last week at Pocono 400. They've been finishing a lot in the early 20s as well this season. Like I said, they've been outperforming other teams that have much higher engineering equipment than they do, have a lot more dollars that they can spend. This week he starts 27th. Most people have been basically avoiding him since sometimes he's been starting from 20th, 21st. A lot of fantasy people think that that's maybe too high. The guys that have been using him as kind of a contrarian play, it's been paying off for him. But his salary this week is $5,700. He has 22 races here under his belt at Michigan with 0 wins. He's got 1 top 5, which came a long time ago, and 2 top 10s. During practice today, he was 24th fastest and was one of the only lower-tiered teams that actually did have a 10-lap run. So he was obviously last in the 10 laps. I think it was 15th out of 15. But I like him a lot from where he starts tomorrow at the 27th position. And in my opinion, he's got a chance of scoring another top 20 finish, hopefully, with his average finish here being 22nd. So if you just go by averages, he's already giving you 5 place differential points plus the position at a $5,700 price point. I really don't think anybody above, there may be one, I think you're going to talk about him, that I kind of like too. But, obviously, too, we've got DiBenedetto that starts higher as well this week from the 30th position. But I think from the guys starting from the high with the position and the ability to get you up towards the top 20, David Reagan is your guy. And I think you got to play him quite a bit this weekend. I know I'm going to have a lot of exposure on him.
I completely agree. My only concern is that he's going to carry with him a huge ownership percentage, unlike the weeks past, that a lot of people are going to be on him. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think it drives you in the area towards a lot of similar lineups. But it's a play I'm definitely making this week. I will tell you that much. Another play that I'm making value-wise is that of Bubba Wallace at 6,100. Bubba starts 28th. He's the other guy that you were foreshadowing there. He's only raced once here, and that was last spring when he was filling in for Almirola. He started 26th and finished 19th. I think we even get more place differential out of him this week, and that's why I'm really on some Bubba this week. I think he has a 17th to 15th place finish in that range on him. Plus, we're getting 2 more place differential points than his last start. I really like what Bubba can offer for you at value at 6,100 this week. He's a smart play, and I have absolutely no problems if you want to pair Bubba Wallace with Reagan to save a bunch of money. Your thoughts, Liehr?
Yeah, I think that's a way a lot of people will be looking at it this weekend to save salary to get some of those bigger guys into their lineups this weekend. The only thing that I do like Bubba Wallace this weekend. He's kind of been laying back in the weeds. He hasn't had a ton of great finishes of late. Obviously he started the season off way hot at the Daytona 500 with that 2nd place finish. But he got in an accident, or what? Not an accident, but he shifted wrong last week.
Yeah, he blew his transmission
and blew the motor. So obviously had a really bad finish last week. But before then he had a 16th place finish at Coca-Cola 600, 11th place. A 23rd place finish at the KC Masterpiece. So with his starting position this week, where he's starting at, I definitely love some Bubba Wallace this weekend, and I think that he has the opportunity to not get a ton of place differential, in my opinion. I think you're shooting the moon there a little bit with the 15th to the 17th place finish. I do think, though, that he could definitely, maybe 20th, 21st. That'd give you, 7 points plus the position. And when you're getting down in that salary range, brother, like, the 61 to lower tier guys with Busher and McDowell and Ty Dillon and DiBenedetto, and then you start getting into the really, really low tier guys. Yeah, I definitely like some Bubba Wallace this weekend. I think he's got a chance to. Obviously, he wants to get back this weekend and prove himself after having an issue last week at Pocono. So I think he's going to make a real concentrated effort this week to have a great finish here at Michigan for sure.
Now, the one guy that I think that we should talk about a little bit that is kind of a tweener in my opinion, that's still in the value range that neither one of us mentioned, is that of Paul Menard, who's in that Wood Brothers / Penske equipment. He's starting 15th. Menard has really good history here. Are you looking for Menard as one of your plays this week?
I haven't necessarily been targeting him to put him into my lineups for sure. But, one guy that does kind of intrigue me a little bit is the Chris Buescher play just because of where he's starting at. Chris Buescher doesn't necessarily have the best of stats here. I mean, he's only had 4 races here. He has a top 10 finish here and does have 2 top 20 finishes. So, I mean, a guy at his price tag with where he's starting at, I don't think he's going to move up any higher than the 18th position. But if he can stick around, that 18th to 20 place range and at his price point with strictly just the points that you get for the position, that could pay off for you as well. But I do, like some Paul Menard as well. He's got, 4 top 10. He's got 4 top 5s and 6 top 10s here. So I think Paul Menard, especially at the $6,800 price point, I don't necessarily see him getting up in, majorly like top 8 or anything like that. But he could have a 10 to 11th place finish. And, those guys have quietly been doing pretty well this season. 11th place finish last week, 14th place finish at the Coca-Cola 600, and a 6th place finish at the KC Masterpiece 400. So I know this is a different type of track, but those guys have been pretty consistent, so far. So yeah, I definitely, and I think a lot of people. I'm glad you pointed it out because I think a lot of people overlook Paul Menard too. He just kind of gets that rap of just kind of overlooking him. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think you got to keep your eye out for him. But definitely. Stay away from the Sticky Ricky this weekend.
Yeah, starting 7th, that's a little too much for me as well. The Casey Kane 29th and the Allmendinger 25th are also interesting, but there's nothing really informative to give to you guys there on those plays. So with that said, I think it's time to transition to our favorite segment, Go Into the Garage, where we get to talk a little bit of trash on drivers or NASCAR, or maybe it's DraftKings. This week, I think we're sticking to drivers, aren't we, Liehr? All right, buddy. Go ahead and give us your pick that you're sending to the garage this week.
All right, brother. I'm going to be going with Kurt Busch. He's had a pretty good season so far in 2018. Obviously, along with Stewart-Haas Racing, they've just been on fire this year. Kurt was obviously fast during qualifying as he scored the pole for tomorrow's race. But overall, during his career, he has not fared very well here at Michigan, along with his brother, like I mentioned before when we talked about the top 3. At the Irish Hills of Michigan. He's had 34 starts here. He's got 3 wins. 2 of those have been semi-early in his career, and the other one was just in 2015, coming off of a weather-shortened race. But he's got 5 top 5s and 11 top 10s. He has an average start here of 13th with an average finish of 19.5. His salary this week is pretty low. It's $8,000, which is the lowest that I think it's been all year. I like what the 41 team has been doing this year, but this track is on a lower tier of performance for Kurt and the guys in the number 41 garage. In my opinion, you can use your money somewhere else this weekend. He may lead a few laps, but it will not be consistent enough during the duration of the race, and he will not pay off this weekend. He will probably come with a low ownership percentage starting from the pole. So if you want to make a risky play, I mean, you can put it out there and have some exposure to him. But also, too, do keep in mind that the fact that I told you, out of the last 10 races, the guy starting from the pole has gone 1-to-1 50% of the time. But I don't necessarily think that's going to equate to this weekend and what's been happening in 2018. But I definitely don't think you need to have any exposure to Kurt Busch this weekend.
No, I completely agree, and I was going to send him to the garage before you did. I was actually starting the write-up on him. There's just no reason for me to want to play him. He doesn't lead a chunk of laps here. When he's won at this track, it's been fluky towards the end, not leading a bunch of laps. other than if we go all the way back to 2007, where he led 92 laps. But other than that, he hasn't led more than 40 laps in the last 10 years here. And that's problematic for me, especially with him starting on the pole. His finishes are mostly back behind the teens. I think it's just a smart fade this week. Now, in my opinion, a more risky fade that I'm going with.
What? You're making a risky fade?
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you to fade Brad Keselowski starting second. Yes, that's right. We are telling you to fade the entire front row. And, Keselowski's 10,100. And yes, we both just sent the front row to the garage. And I understand, yes, Keselowski has a really good track history here that you're all going to tell me I'm probably crazy. But listen to my argument first. He finishes in the top 10, but he doesn't win here. He hasn't won here. And other than last fall, he hasn't led more than a few laps here as well. He's just like Kurt Busch in that instance. And last fall, when he led the 105 laps here, he ended up finishing 17th, negating most of the laps he led. Combine those factors with his salary at $10,100 and who it means I can't roster if I'm putting Kes on my lineup. I think this week Keselowski is just an opportunity cost that I'm not willing to pay and sacrifice somebody else of a better ilk. I don't see Keselowski doing anything but falling backwards. And at 10,100, if there is a better place differential play that will end up outpointing him or someone dominates, he's not going to be on the required winning lineup. He may even win this race and not be on the required winning lineup if he doesn't lead laps. That's what's crazy about the place differential potentials by several of these drivers this week. That's why I'm fading Keselowski. Now, I realize that's a bold play, but Liehr, what are your opinions on it?
That is a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. I mean, yeah, man, congratulations for putting yourself out there. I mean, I'm happy that you have decided to do that, at least for one major driver. And I didn't even think about we were putting number 1 and number 2 going to the garage this weekend. So, but yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I think that Keselowski and Penske in general obviously have some good history here. I mean, Joey Logano is a guy that we haven't talked about at all during the show, but I mean, he's a guy that's got multiple wins here. And, you know, he's usually pretty fast here, but the same thing with Keselowski. But the guy, it's his home track. He's from the state of Michigan. So obviously he has a little bit extra undue pressure on him because he wants to perform well here. You know, as far as his practices go, I mean, he was fifth fastest as far as, you know, single lap. But he didn't even do 10 laps when it came to the 10-lap averages. So it worries me a little bit, especially, too, with the kind of season they've had this 2018 season. They've been looking, you know, to get a win, you know, this season as well. But I can't put them on my lineups too because, like you said, you put in the salary factor in there. You know, if you're going to play a Larson with a, you know, Kevin Harvick, I mean, you're shooting 2 guys over 10K right there. That basically puts you out for Keselowski, and you know, you may get him at low ownership this weekend. You know, that might be another one that you'll get at low ownership if you want to choose to go that direction. But I'm right there with you. I think that it's somebody I may have one, you know, but I'm not going to specifically be going out and targeting him for a majority of the lineups I'll be putting together. I just think there's better options for you this weekend. But you know, what they say is, especially if you're going to play the lottery, you got to pick the lottery picks. So see if it happens.
I would just rather play his teammate Blaney starting 9th or even play his teammate Logano starting 5th with a history where he actually gets it done here, right? That's just my opinion.
No, I totally agree with you. And unfortunately, I think that the way that they've been performing, especially he had a great week last week at Pocono. He paid off. You know, he's starting from 15th, and he had a 5th place finish. He obviously didn't lead any laps, but it was a good finish for that team, and they needed that. So hopefully it's kind of trending the right direction for the number 2 team. But he did make some, and obviously too, I'm not sure if you guys out there are aware, but you know, he made some bold comments this week when it came to the Goodyear tires. You know, he was one of the guys that went up to Michigan and tested the tires that they were going to use this weekend. He ended up telling them his recommendations, and apparently they ended up choosing the tire that he did not like or did not recommend. So there's kind of been a rift there this weekend about the tires between him and Goodyear. So, he's got a little bit of that extra media, social kind of stuff going on outside of the car. So that may play a little bit of factor in it too. But I definitely can't be going a whole ton of exposure on Keselowski this weekend at all. So.
No, and I like that you pointed out that he may carry low ownership because of the factors that I pointed out. But then again, it may be over what it should be because it's his home track, because he's had those cool press moments in the eyes of a lot of fans. It may actually drive up his ownership. That's part of the reason why I'm just fading. I think it's smarter and safer to fade, in my opinion. But that's where I'm at, and I've been wrong several times. It wouldn't be the first if I'm wrong on the Kes fade, but that's why I'm sending him to the garage.
Real quick before we move any forward than that, we haven't talked about him at all, but another guy that's coming home this weekend is a guy by the name of Erik Jones and his new ride in the number 20 from Byron, Michigan. What do you think about him this weekend?
First of all, I like me some Erik Jones. I have a problem, though, that he's starting 8th, right? He's too young and too inconsistent for me to want to roster him starting 8th. I feel like he's a good driver that can be a top 10 car, but that's just not where I'm wanting to go with my limited exposure. If I was lighting a bunch of money on fire mass entering, I would probably take a lineup or two to throw just because I think it'll be low owned, and there is a chance that Erik Jones could do well in that great equipment, Joe Gibbs equipment, but I'm not going to be doing it. I'll put it that way. Your thoughts, Liehr?
Yeah, I think Jones, obviously same kind of thing with Keselowski. A little bit of extra, pressure on him this weekend to perform well. But, at the same time, I guess, too, these guys coming back to Michigan, kind of the tension kind of goes down because you get to see a lot more family members. You get to see people you don't get to see on a regular basis. But it also, too, does come with extra pressure with having all those people there. But I think Erik Jones is a guy this weekend. He hasn't quite shown the speed, and coming off of last week where, man, he was such a place differential darling and ended up crashing there towards the end. None of his own doing, unfortunately, got caught up in it. But, starting 8th, it makes it kind of hard to roster him because I don't think he's got the speed to get up there towards the front. He may end up having a finish between the 5th and 10th position, but at an $8,400 price tag, I just don't think, unless you're going to go instead of stars and scrubs, I don't think and you're going to go more middle tier guys. It's going to make him hard to roster this weekend.
I completely agree, and in my opinion, the same goes for Amarola starting 6th. Just another play that I would like to be on, but I think he's overqualified and is sitting basically at his ceiling for where he's going to end up. Yeah. And that's just too risk. I'm more adverse to that kind of risk than making that play. But guys, on a little bit of sadder note before we end the show, with the celebrities Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade taking their own lives this week, we wanted to take a moment to draw attention to suicide prevention and awareness. Suicide is a problem that can affect anyone. Even the NASCAR community has been impacted with the suicide of Dick Trickle in 2013. So guys, if you need help or need to talk to someone, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Liehr, go ahead and close up the show and get us out of here, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, brother. It's obviously a topic that, when something like this happens, it gets put to the forefront. But unfortunately, it is a situation that comes up more often than it should. You only get one chance of this life, and you got to make it happen. Unfortunately, some people get caught up in things and situations, but with the right help, it is greener on the other side for sure. So, but appreciate you guys watching the show. Looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be a fun race. This is one of the faster tracks that, like we said, that we do race on this weekend, and should make for some good racing. I'm hoping that we get it in. No rain.
All right, Liehr, give us last week's contest winners, and then let's get out of here.
All right, brother. Congratulations to D.A. Stiegels, our buddy Eric. He had the winning lineup with a score of 310.75. He had Eric Amarola, who scored 65 points. The play that we obviously talked about that was pretty much a no-brainer. Then you had Kevin Harvick, with a 77.75. He led 89 laps last week. Then we had Matt Kenseth, surpriser, with only 11.1% owned, 44 points for him. Then we had Kyle Larson. He had second place finish last week with a 53. Michael McDowell, starting 30th, got the 21st position with a 32 points. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr. from 23rd to 14th with 39 points. So congratulations to D.A. Steagles.
Congratulations, buddy. The contest continues this week. Make sure you get your lineup in. It's a lot of fun for that season-long championship where Liehr and I are going to buy the winner of the season-long league an autographed diecast of their choice.
And let's win some freaking money this weekend, baby!
Yeah, let's do it. And remember, kids, those who like and comment, if Chase Elliott wins, I will put my money where my mouth is and give out my signed Chase Elliott hero card. See, it's autographed right there. For some reason, Chase Elliott likes to sign in the upper right-hand corner of these pictures. With that said, guys, have a wonderful week. Let's make some money. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.
I'll be doing this weekend, and then as soon as I drink this and he passes the checkered flag at first, I'll be wearing this, and I'm going to throw it up in the air, baby.
All right, guys, have a great week. Bye.
Have a great weekend, everybody.